Hi everyone, I'm Wayne Wright. Welcome to On Patrol. On today's show, making sure our hotels, motels, and tourist accommodations are operating safely and legally. In late March, for the first time, a hotel in South Fulton was closed under the county's tourist accommodation ordinance. And 19 families consisting of about 43 individuals were displaced from the Extended Suites Hotel after authorities found criminal and safety violations at the facility. Here now to tell us more about the ordinance and closure is Kevin Jones with the county's Environmental Health Division. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Wayne.
Kevin, tell us a little bit about your department and its roles and responsibilities and what your day-to-day functions are.
Well, environmental health, we have a wide range of things that are up under us. We inspect all your tourist accommodations like you previously spoke about. We also do all your restaurants. We do your swimming pools. We do your septic and wells. There are still wells in the county.
Wow.
We also do childhood lead. So if there's a child that has an elevated blood lead level, we'll send an inspector in to do a risk assessment on the house. We also have a rat control and a West Nile virus program.
Wow, that's a lot of different programs that you have,
Yes.
Kevin. How many inspectors of employees do you have on staff, and are they assigned to different areas throughout the county?
Yeah, we've got about 30 inspectors on staff presently, and we have the county divided up into north, central, and south districts with either a supervisor and our manager over each district office, and those supervisors and our managers report directly to me.
Wow, so you guys are not relegated to just unincorporated South Fulton County. You encompass the whole county as a whole, is that correct?
Whole county and all 14 municipalities within the county are up under our jurisdiction.
Wow. What type of certifications does your staff have? Are you guys required to obtain any type of certifications?
Yes, to be a restaurant inspector, you have to have a certification called ServSafe. There's a class that you need to take. The class is about 2 days long. At the end of the second day, there's a test given, and each staff must pass with about a 70% rate. If you're going to be a pool inspector, you need to have a certified pool operator's license to be able to do that. If you're going to issue septic permits, you need to have a certification from the state of Georgia to be able to issue those permits.
Wow, wow, that's pretty extensive. What state agencies, a lot of times local municipalities work in collaboration with other state agencies and sometimes federal agencies to act in concert on different projects. What state or federal agencies do you guys collaborate with?
We work closely with the State Environmental Health Office, with the Environmental Protection Division with the state, and with FDA. Currently with our FDA collaboration, we're certifying each inspector to inspect based on FDA standards, and those standards are pretty rigorous. Each inspector has to go through at least 40 hours of instruction, 40 hours of online instruction before they're even allowed to be inspectors as far as FDA is concerned. So getting that certification is an enhanced level that we're trying to achieve in the county.
Sure. That leads us into, recently there was a hotel in South Fulton County, Frederick Drive, in which an inspection was done by multiple agencies of Fulton County. And I think your agency was one of the lead agencies in the revocation of a tourist accommodation permit at the Extended Suites Hotel. Tell us a little bit about that and how that went.
Well, to go back and talk about the ordinance a little bit, we've had a tourist accommodation ordinance that we adopted from the state for years. It didn't give us the ability to really do the things that we need to do as far as enforcement. So what happened was there was an amendment done to the tourist accommodation regs that allowed for the county to have more enforcement in unincorporated parts of the county. So if a particular establishment had a police violation, criminal activity, if they didn't pay their business tax, or if there was a code enforcement problem, then that would give us the impetus to at least seek suspension or denial or even closure for a hotel or motel.
Wow, so we're talking about an ordinance that the county already had in its coffers, but it just needed to be amended to allow you guys to enforce it.
Yeah, and actually the amendment to the ordinance, which was adopted by the Board of Commissioners in April of 2012, really gave us the impetus to be able to do the things that we need to do.
Good. Now, how did you apply this ordinance to the Extended Suites? Sometime back in March, there was as I stated earlier, inspection with multiple agencies, and you guys went in and I think there was a revocation of the tourist accommodation permit. How did you apply this ordinance to this particular establishment?
Well, based on the inspection that we conducted, the rooms were out of compliance. The rooms were filthy, mattresses were filthy, carpets filthy, mold. There were no safe and sanitary conditions in those particular rooms. So based on that, we wrote a letter to the owner of the establishment to let them know that their permit application was being denied, and we used not meeting our compliance with our regulations for tourist accommodation, and also there was criminal activity on the site. We listed that on the letter, and I believe there were some code enforcement violations too. So based on those 3 violations, that's why that extended suites was closed.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. So what are the remedies once you go in and you revoke a tourist accommodation permit? Does the property owner have the right to come in and request a hearing, or how do they go about re-implementing or reinstating their tourist accommodation permit?
They have within 10 days from the revocation of that permit to seek a hearing with the permit review hearing officer. At this present time, that has not happened yet. The ownership of that particular establishment, they're trying to bring each and every room in compliance. Once they've given us word that they've done that, then we'll go back in with the multiple agencies and conduct another inspection to see whether they're in compliance and able to even apply for a permit.
Wow. I understand also, based on an ordinance, anytime there's a change in ownership where the ownership of an establishment is about to transfer, I understand that there's supposed to be notice given to the county of the transfer in ownership. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. We had a lot of change of ownerships happening, and we didn't know about them. Okay. Partly it was on us. Partly it's because we didn't talk as multiple agencies. You know, well, the business people, tax people may have known, but we didn't know as the permit agency. So all that stuff has been cleaned up in the ordinance. So we're all in concert at this present time. We're all talking, and we're just trying to make sure that we're going to provide the best and most safe environment for people that are going to stay in any hotel or motel.
Wow, that's good to know. It's good to know that not just our residents, but people that visit our area, it's good to know that your agency is in control and in charge of making sure these establishments are held up to an acceptable standard. Right. You mentioned earlier about the calls for service and reports from code enforcement, health department, police department. How do you go about reconciling all these reports?
Well, actually, we receive reports from the police department. We pull reports together from your department, from code enforcement, from business tax. We brought everything together to make one complete package that we would turn over to the permit review hearing officer. So based on that, there'll be a decision made.
Right. We're noticing lately that hotels are starting to become residence for individuals as opposed to short-term stay hotels. Is that becoming problematic, and will this ordinance be able to address those issues?
Hopefully we'll be able to. What we think happened was that when a lot of the public housing closed in Fulton County, that people had no place to go, and they were given housing vouchers, and a lot of them ended up on Fulton Industrial Boulevard. And we attribute that to somewhat of the downfall of the boulevard. I remember when I first started in the 90s, the boulevard was thriving. We had swimming pools in all your hotels. You had people coming from all over the country because they were going to Six Flags, and they were staying in the hotels. And somewhere along 2005, 2006, we saw a steady decline.
Right. I too can remember those days, Kevin, but one thing's for sure, the county is taking measures to rectify these situations on the Fulton Industrial in that area to restore these hotels to what the initial use should have been. Well, Kevin, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for coming on the show. And when we come back, we'll talk to law enforcement officials about what they found on the property when they went out to the Extended Suites Hotel also. Stay with us. Welcome back to On Patrol. I'm Wayne Wright. Our topic today deals with the closing of an extended stay hotel. Among the agencies... Welcome back to On Patrol. I'm Wayne Wright. Our topic today deals with the closing of an extended stay hotel, and among the agencies called to the scene was the police department, who have been working diligently to clean up the boulevard, and today Captain William Yates, who's over the Special Operations Unit of the Fulton County Police Department, is here with us. Good to see you again, Captain Yates.
Thanks for having me, Wayne.
Recently, your agency assisted other Fulton County agencies with the evacuation and closure of the Extended Suites Hotel at Frederick Drive. How'd that go?
I think it went pretty well. First, let me explain that we don't actually have a part in the closure of the hotel. It was a health violation. Our purpose was twofold. Number one, just to assist the agency, make sure that there weren't any problems. We've had a lot of crime issue at these types of hotels, and so we want to protect the employees of Fulton County. And secondly, if a criminal violation is observed, then we would be able to intercede at that point.
Okay. You mentioned that you're there to assist. It's my understanding that Fulton County Code Enforcement and the Health Department have what we call a right of entry. They have that right to go in and inspect establishments at any time. With you there to be there, with you along assisting those agencies, what happens when they find criminal violations that are in perhaps plain view? What happens when they contact your division?
Well, we would stand by in the parking lot so that we're very close. And so if an inspector were to, say, find what they thought to be drugs in a hotel room, then they would come out and notify us. We would briefly interview that investigator and get probable cause to obtain a search warrant. We would get a search warrant signed by a judge, and then we would have the lawful right as police officers to enter that room, investigate the possibility of the drugs, seize the drugs, make arrests if that's appropriate at the time.
Right. It is my understanding that there was some action on that day. There was an apprehension made by your division in close proximity to Extended Suites on that day. Could you talk a little bit about that?
I can talk a little bit about it. I can't get into too
Sure.
many of the specifics because it's pending court. But we had been watching the general area and observed what we believe to be some drug activity going on. And coincidentally, right as the code enforcement units and the health units arrived, we were actually effecting an arrest, which yielded quite a large amount of drugs.
Sure. We're noticing a trend with extended stay hotels, and hotels which were meant to be permanent, which were not meant to be permanent residences, are turning into permanent residencies as opposed to temporary residencies. How has that impacted your cost of service? Do you see an increase in cost of service as opposed to tourists who stand on a temporary basis?
I'm not sure that the cost of service would be affected by that. Generally speaking, calls of service are people calling to report a crime. And what we find in most vice crimes and drug crimes is that they're unreported. People generally don't call the police and say, I see a prostitute making a deal, or I see someone dealing drugs. That does happen occasionally, but usually that kind of thing goes unreported, and so the calls to service isn't an accurate indicator of that crime.
Sure.
What is an accurate indicator is police officers making self-initiated activity. In other words, whether it be the patrolman seeing something happening and acting on it, or whether it be my unit conducting a surveillance
Sure.
and seeing this type of activity, moving in and making those arrests. And when we look at the extended hotels, what we see is very high crime rates of that self-initiated activity.
Sure. Recently, the Fulton County Code Enforcement Division became a part of the Fulton County Police Department. What's your thoughts on that? How's that transition gone? Do you think that was a benefit for the county?
Sure, I do. I think the main change was at the leadership level, simply that the police chief is now over both the police department and code. But as far as the mission of code, I don't think that's changed at all. We've already talked about the right of entry, and code didn't bleed that over to the police department, and nor did the code enforcement officers get certified as police officers. So it's like a different section of the police department, and I think having that day-to-day contact is beneficial, especially for the boulevard.
Right. Well, Captain Yates, we really appreciate all you do and your staff in keeping us safe here in the county, and a special thanks to Police Chief Cassandra Jones for her tremendous leadership.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. When we come back, details on what happened to the families who were displaced. Stay with us. Welcome back to On Patrol. I'm Wayne Wright. Perhaps the most vulnerable victims of the hotel closing were the people and families. With most of these types of instances, the county's Office of Emergency and Transitional Housing is called to help the displaced. Gerry Richardson is with us with Emergency and Transitional Housing. Welcome to the show, Gerry.
Thank you, Wayne.
Gerry, recently there were operations which took place in the food industrial area at Extended Suites Hotel, and your agency was called out to help other agencies within Fulton County with the displacement of families. Tell us how that went.
Well, as usual, whenever code enforcement has a situation where you all close down a hotel or apartment complex, Human Services, Housing and Human Services, particularly OETH, is involved in that. We attempt to find temporary placement for the families to ensure that nobody's on the street.
Sure.
Yeah. So one of the things that we did in this particular incident was we got a call, and we came out, responded to the situation, and approximately 16 or so families were assisted with emergency housing through the weekend.
Okay, sure. You know, I've seen you guys in action, and when you come on site, I noticed that you have individual interviews with families and family members. What types of things are you trying to ascertain when you're talking to the families?
Yeah, we want to do an assessment to find out, first of all, does the family have income, or do they have other family that they can go and reside with on a temporary basis? In the event that a person or a family has relatives that they can go reside with, of course, we encourage that. When that's not possible, we will come in and temporarily place families. First of all, we try to exhaust our shelters. Of course, OETH operates various shelters in the county for single men, women with children, intact families.
Sure.
So we try to do that first. And if we're not able to, place a family or a person in one of our shelters, and then we'll provide temporary housing accommodations via a hotel.
Sure. You know, Gerry, when you guys show up and when we call you out, it's kind of like you guys are God saying, when people see you walk in and they realize that you're there to help them,
right,
it really helps the situation. In this particular case, where did you guys relocate? Where did your department relocate these families to?
Well, we have a standing relationship with the Stratford Inn, which is a hotel over in the Midtown area of Atlanta. And so, thankfully, for this situation, the Stratford had available rooms, and we made a phone call, and they were able to accommodate the families through the weekend.
Sure. I imagine, do you guys have other prearranged agreements or relationships with other hotels? Say, hypothetically, if the Stratford Inn was booked and you couldn't get accommodations there, do you have other existing agreements?
Unfortunately, at this time, we don't have other prearranged relationships with hotels. However, we will, in the event that Stratford is full, we will call other hotels to explain the situation, to explain that we are the county, and to see if they will, help. Sure. And in some cases in the past, that's happened.
Sure. I know on a number of occasions your department has been called out at a moment's notice by Fulton County Code Enforcement, Health and Wellness, and other agencies. How difficult is it to gather yourself at a moment's notice in short order and be able to go out and access needs of people?
Yeah. Well, difficult in the sense that, of course, we have staff that are already dealing with situations in-house, if you will, at our various locations. And so at times we have to put on hold what we're doing maybe with the existing client to respond to an emergency situation. But, we understand that's the job. It comes with the job. And so, we're always willing to respond even if it's at a moment's notice.
Right. It takes a person to be very articulate and sympathetic when you come into contact with people that are perhaps at their lowest point, they're going through a crisis.
Right.
And your staff is out trying to assess needs. How do you prepare them for that? I mean, do you guys have in-house training where you talk about interacting with people as they go through these type of situations?
Of course, yeah, we do promote training within our division, within the department as well. customer service training. We encourage, not only encourage, but we sort of mandate all of our staff to attend customer service training, sensitivity trainings. And so we're sensitive to the needs that people have when we respond to situations like this. And so our first job, Wayne, is to kind of put the people at ease, to let them know, look, I know you're frustrated. I know you were probably caught by surprise by the whole, incident of what's going on, but we're here to help. And so, kind of relax, calm down, and just, give us the information that we need so that we can put together a plan to hopefully not only temporarily assist you, but permanently assist you as well.
Right. As I stated earlier, you've been out before with us on a number of different occasions. In the Ford industrial area, there's an initiative to clean up the boulevard and the corridor. And a lot of times people in these hotels they don't have any other options. Aside from emergency placement in hotels, what type of ongoing emergency shelters or housing does Human Services have?
Sure. Human Services offers sheltering for homeless men, single men, at Jefferson Place. We also have a program for women with children, one of our newest programs to our continuum, Springdale Place, which is over in the East Point section of town. And then we have partnerships with a couple of nonprofits. The City of Refuge, we provide the case management for single women with children there. And then intact families, husbands, wives, dependent children, we partner with Community Concerns to provide housing at that location.
Gary, that's very intriguing, I tell you. And I just want to thank you for all you do. You're always there whenever we call for you. And thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, and it's always a pleasure working with you.
Up next, grab a pen. We'll have details on how you can report these types of code enforcement violations in your community. We'll be right back. As we wrap up our show today, we want to let you know that Fulton County has a dedicated team of professionals in its Code Enforcement Division. Each employee is determined to keep the community in which it serves clean and by all means up to code. But we can't do it alone. We need the eyes of every resident in unincorporated Fulton County to help us get the job done. So if you see something, say something. Call us on the tail line. That's 404-612-8355. You can also send us an email with a photo of the property in question. Send the email to clickit@fultoncountyga.gov. A special thanks not only to our guests today, but also to you for watching On Patrol. I'm Wayne Wright, and I'll see you next time.